A lot of people ask me, "Hey Grayfruit, how do you play Mr. Game & Watch so well in Ultimate?" To which I'd reply, "I don't, dummy." I can see how people might get that impression though, as I make videos that showcase a lot of insanely cherry-picked moments. I don't think I'd call myself a competitive Smash player, and I have pretty poor reaction time, making me overall pretty terrible at certain aspects of high-level play. That being said, I do have quite a few hours put into the game, and specifically into this character, and that combined with my decent knowledge of Smash's mechanics means I could probably put together a semi-competent guide on how to play this weird little fella. Overall, Game & Watch is sort of a glass cannon character, with more emphasis on glass than cannon. He's one of the lightest characters in the game and is only outranked in how easy he is to kill by 3 cute little baby Pokemon. With that in mind, he also has a pretty versatile set of moves that have bizarre or unpredictable qualities, and since he's not very frequently played, not seriously at least, a lot of people don't know the matchup. Because of this, you can really whoop some ass when you're on a roll. Plus, he's funny, and his animations are the right mix of strange and cool for me. Game & Watch has some great aerials, the best in my opinion being his neutral air and his back air, both of which are long-lasting multi-hit moves that are not perfectly safe, but pretty good at pressuring nonetheless. Like I said, a lot of people don't really know the matchup well, so the multi-hit can be difficult for opponents to shield fully, as they'll be anxiously awaiting to punish you. An air does more damage, can lead to follow-ups, and has pretty low ending lag. When you use it on an airborne opponent, you can usually short hop after the move is done and get some sort of follow-up at low percents, such as another nair, an up air, a side B, an up B, or a down B. If you ground cancel your nair before the move is complete, you can get follow-ups off the weak multi-hits of the fishbowl, such as a down smash, a jab, a grab, or any of your tilts. If someone's giving you trouble on the ledge, I find that dropping down, then immediately short hop nairing can be a pretty reliable way to get back on stage and maybe even start a combo. Back air is a little heavier on the landing lag, but it has a little extra hitbox during the landing animation, making it even harder for opponents to shield or parry well. If you're feeling cheeky, like I constantly am, you can go for big strings of bears in a row at low percents, and try to steal your opponent's jump with it. Up B is also a pretty reliable follow-up. Back air, unlike nair, actually kills at a pretty reasonable percent and sends at a useful semi-spike angle, if you get the final aerial hit that is. The landing hit is substantially weaker and sends at what we in the biz like to call the Sakurai angle. Next are his more specialized aerials, and they're all pretty weird. Let's start off with his down air, the most conventional of the three, and a really powerful kill move. This is your classic stall then fall type down air. This property can make it risky to use off stage, especially if you don't have your jump or your air dodge to help you recover after. That being said, the spike hitbox on this thing is huge, even if it only lasts a tiny split second. The spike basically happens when Game & Watch transitions from this frame where he's holding the key above his head to the first few frames of him thrusting the key to the depths. His unique animation style makes this quite easy to visually understand. This spike is a particularly brutal one that'll usually gimp if not kill any opponent around or above 30 to 40% off stage. If you're going to be a cool guy and try to spike with it, be sure to still have your jump while you do it, then jump afterwards and up B or air dodge as necessary to get to the ledge. Otherwise, the weak, late hit of the key is decently high priority and kills at higher percents, and Game & Watch's ridiculous recovery makes it safer than most dares of the same class. It also has a landing hit when used on stage, which can hit the opponent even if they parry the first hit. Spiking someone on stage with it can also lead to a jab lock at low percents, but personally, I'm terrible at these, so I've only ever done it once to any useful degree. Here are a couple of situational perks of this move. 1. The landing lag is pretty heavy like I said, but if you use this move high up on the screen enough that the move ends in the air, it's essentially lagless, which can be a tricky bait that leads to cool follow-ups like the aforementioned jab lock situation. This means that you could probably theoretically double spike someone off stage with this, but I'm not cool enough of a guy for that. The other strange property of this move is that if you down air right after getting launched upward, your downward momentum will be slowed, giving you access to the lagless aerial ending of the move as well. Next is forward air, a really fucking weird move. I've had a lot of people ask me since Ultimate's release how I felt about this move, and here's my official rating. It's really weird and inconsistent, and while it's technically capable of cool things, I really miss the old fare. This move is another multi-hit, and easily the weirdest of the bunch. Game & Watch drops a bomb in front of him, which has an incredibly weak set knockback spike hitbox as the bomb actually falls. Then, after the bomb goes a set distance or hits the floor, it explodes. This explosion has a hitbox that used to be trash and is now slightly less trash. The damning flaws of this move are that 1. The first weak hitbox does not even come close to comboing into the second hit, and 2. Literally any attack of any kind completely eats the bomb, like Ganon sneezes and this thing disappears. Because of this, it's a pretty unsafe move in most scenarios, considering the long, obvious animation and the fact that as projectiles go, it's a little bitch and gets destroyed by just about anything. The explosion does have the capability to combo into basically any aerial move you want if you use your double jump in the air right after dropping it, which makes it extra tantalizing as a style tool. People can DI in such a way that makes it difficult to get these follow-ups, but they are possible and they feel pretty godlike when you can land them. Shield breaks at around 50% are just asking to get bomb style, but keep in mind that bomb combos become a lot harder if not impossible at higher percents. If you're really desperate and they're at a high-ish percent, then you could try to sneak an up B in there, as that's Game & Watch's fastest move. Next is up air, another move that I missed the Smash 4 version of. This one is sort of like Mega Man's up air, only without the excessively strong windbox that can lead to jank kills. In fact, I've personally never killed with up air, and while you can technically do it in really weird situations where you and your opponent are really near the top blast zone, it's really not even worth thinking about killing with in most situations. It shoots a little puff projectile that is, you guessed it, another multi-hit move. Sometimes you can get strings of up airs in a row, or you could just spam it whenever the opponent is above you just to be annoying. But generally, I try to stay away from playing like that. This and forward air's property of being projectiles means they can both be reflected or pocketed, so watch out for that. Otherwise, it's just a decent zoning move and a middling combo tool next to Bair and Nair. Now I'll move on to his grounded moves, which are generally a little less versatile due to their lack of speed, but still solid enough. His grab is pretty standard, it's kind of fast and has a so-so amount of ending lag on it. Please feel free to let me know in the comments section if any of these technical terms are too complicated. Down throw is a really easy and reliable combo tool at low percents, leading to Nair, up air, or up B most reliably, or Judge and Oil Panic less so. Down throw is also his only real kill throw, which is super weird, killing at about 200% on your average Malcolm Falcon. Up throw can also lead to an up B or an up air, and it has less knockback growth than down throw, which sounds complicated, but basically it just means it can still work for up B combos at even higher percents than you'd think. Only use forward or back throw if you're at the ledge and you want your high percent opponent off stage. Oh yeah, and his slow-ass pummel from Smash 4 has been replaced in Ultimate by one of the fastest in the game, so smack a couple of those on there before throwing for some free damage. Jab is one of Game & Watch's fastest options, and the jab combo does a fair amount of damage, even if it can be SDI'd out of pretty easily. The first hit also jab locks, and the combo finisher kills at pretty high percents if you're launching them from the ledge. F-tilt is a beefy move that has a long-lasting and powerful hitbox, making it a good killing and ledge guarding tool. It is fairly laggy and a little slow, as well as not being a massive hitbox, so don't throw it out willy-nilly. It's quite good for catching rolls. Down tilt has a lot of the same properties as F-tilt, with significantly less range but slightly more power. Its active hitbox is also shyer, and thus does not stay out for as long. It's a short move, so it can duck underneath lots of other characters' tilts, grabs, smashes, and projectiles. As long as I'm on this, Mr. Game & Watch's normal crouch animation is very short, which means it can dodge a surprising amount of moves in the game. Use this on Captain Falcons who just run away and spam dash grab on you, using down tilt as a punish. Up tilt is a polarizing move. On one hand, the animation is hilarious and weird. On the other, it's not a very good anti-air, and isn't amazingly consistent for combos. He waves these dumb little flags once on either side of his head, and the first is supposed to combo into the second, which kills at a pretty okay percent. This first hit used to not be set knockback, which meant that at high percents it would rarely ever connect both hits. Thankfully, this was fixed in the most recent patch. This was Mr. Game & Watch's only change. You can also perform follow-ups after landing this move at low percents, but the move's lacking initial hitbox makes these combos kind of rare. Sometimes, if you grounded spike your opponent with the correct spacing and timing, you can true combo an up tilt off of it. Dash attack is one of Game & Watch's better grounded moves, as it sends him forward at a decent speed with a slightly disjointed hitbox plowing forward into the ground. This isn't a very reliable kill option, but it can be good for two-framing or other similar ledge situations, as well as being a good general get-off-of-me move. Don't be that doofus that just spams dash attack though, as you'll likely get punished hard if your opponent decides to press the R button. Now his smashes, all really quite good in certain situations. F-smash is the most conventional, just being a fat hitbox in front of him that kills pretty early, especially if it's charged. The hitbox is slightly bigger than the actual graphic of the torch, so it can look really janky sometimes. This move received a nerf around the release of the game where its controversial racism hitbox was deleted. Okay, let's just see here. Gonna just give it one of those. And done! Now it's not racist anymore. Down smash is a great move that's difficult to resist spamming sometimes. It's fairly fast and hits on both sides of our boy. The handles of the hammers have a pretty powerful semi-spike hitbox, and the hammerheads bury grounded opponents while launching aerial ones straight up. The burial hitbox is very useful, as it pins the opponent down for basically any attack you want to do to them, given they're not at a very low percent. If you want to try something really stylish, you could attempt a cool knockback storage combo, but I find these to be very difficult to pull off on real people. You can also get goofy strings of tech chases with the weak hits of the smash attack if your opponent has a tendency to roll in. Up smash is a very powerful and bizarre move. Unlike how it behaved in previous games, this one grants full invulnerability to Mr. Game & Watch's entire body, but only while the actual swing of his head is happening. This means that you can get hilarious jank kills like this with it. It kills better than some up smashes, but it's no Lucas up smash. Now finally, the moment I think a lot of people have been waiting for is specials. I've been itching to talk about these, and I'll get to the true cream of the meme crop soon, but first his neutral B, Chef. Chef is a slow-moving projectile that does not, in fact, shoot bacon, like many people including myself often say. Those sausage links look like bacon if you squint at them, I guess. It's a pretty useful projectile in the right situations, usually being at the ledge. Toss one or two of these bad boys out with the proper spacing, and they can two-frame opponents pretty reliably, although their trajectory is very slightly RNG-based. You can affect how the food travels through the air by tilting your stick after inputting the first B press, tilting up to make the food travel a shorter distance but have a higher arc, and tilting forward to make it go a long distance with a low arc. Once the opponent is hit by the food, you can try to get a follow-up of just about anything off this. Some opponents' up Bs, like Corins or Bowsers, tend to neutralize the food through a clash, so be emotionally prepared for that moment. Otherwise, this is a slow, semi-decent projectile that probably wouldn't hurt to just toss out every once in a while to keep your enemy on their toes. Oh yeah, and the pan itself has a hitbox that activates every time Game & Watch swings it upward. It's a weak semi-spike, and it can still gimp opponents or get solid damage off of a roll read. It's not the best though, as it's quite slow and laggy. Finally, we get to Judge, the side B. As most of you already probably know, the move swings a hammer in front of Mr. Game & Watch, holding up a sign with an RNG-determined number from 1 to 9. The only parameter of this RNG, as far as I currently know, is that you can never roll the same number twice. This means that if you roll a 1, the shittiest number, you can be comforted by the fact that the next number will at worst be a 2, or maybe something higher. If you roll a 9, you can reset your RNG by swinging again to regain your chance at getting another one. Now, the numbers and their effects. 1 is horrible. It does 12 damage to you and only like 2 to the enemy, and it doesn't even do knockback, which can just plain old fuck you over if it happens at an inopportune time. The one saving grace of this number is that it will not save a gimped opponent, and can lead to silly moments like this if you go for the disrespect. 2 is almost as bad as 1, and can actually be worse in certain situations. It does a tiny amount of knockback that's similar in launch power to Luigi's up B coin. This means if you do it on an opponent that's in end lag, it can actually make it so they're able to counterattack sooner than if they hadn't been interrupted. Usually nothing comes of rolling this number or a 1, but they usually don't break opponents out of the buried state, so they can lead to stupid kills, I guess. 3 is slightly good. It sends backwards, notably, and does a ton of shield damage, not breaking a full shield, sadly, but helping nonetheless. It can lead to confusion or gimps on the opponent, but little else. 4 is super boring. Just a slash move that sends an okay distance, but typically doesn't kill. Maybe it'll extend your edge guard a little. 5 is a multi-hit that deals electric damage. This one also basically never kills. 6 is pretty good, being a semi-spike that's the second most powerful of the entire set. It's a fire burst, and it kills well at the ledge. 7 is very bizarre. It also very rarely kills, but can at high percents at the ledge. But it also spawns 3 apples where you're standing, even if you have items turned off. Mash A 3 times to pick these up. You usually won't even have to turn around to get them all. They heal you a little, which can save you from the despair of being 3.6% shy of getting a JV3. 8 is very versatile, but easy to cheese. It freezes the opponent in what I believe is called a thing of ice, and if you read how long it'll take for them to mash out of it, you can get slick follow-ups on it. The ice also falls pretty fast, and thus can gimp people off stage at high percents. Sadly, you can air dodge right after exiting the ice, so cool combos with this are avoidable, and there's very little knockback if you hit them while they're still frozen. And of course, 9, the Stock Slayer. This one's just plain insanely powerful, and according to some, completely unfair, packing about as much punch as Ganon's neutral B. This thing ruins shields at about the same rate as a 3 and is very hard to tech in a stage spike situation. It usually does kill if landed, and only very rarely will opponents survive getting hit by it. The looming theoretical presence of the 9 is a powerful mental tool that you can use to strike fear into the hearts of your opponents. Sometimes all it takes is throwing out a side B at a bizarre moment to turn the tides in your favor. As for the moment-to-moment logistics of actually landing this move, it is a small, slow-ish move that is active for a fair number of frames before some pretty substantial ending lag. Down throw Nair 9 is really easy to do, and while it's not always true, it just works a lot of the time. This is often because opponents will try to attack out of your combos. The hardest part of this combo is that you have to predict where the Nair is going to put the enemy when the multi-hit is finished. You can usually kind of tell by where their position is while inside the move. One benefit of lower numbers like 2, 3, 4, 5, and even 8 is that they can all get some sort of follow-up in certain situations, although none of them are true combos. Typically, this sort of thing happens off-stage and is highly dependent on the appropriate reaction to each number. Next is the aforementioned up B, a really fast move that is Game & Watch's best get-off-me tool, as well as being a decent combo and killing tool that makes Game & Watch's recovery pretty amazing, and one of his best attributes. It has a starting hitbox in the form of the 2 firemen and trampoline that appear around him briefly, followed by the second hitbox of Game & Watch's body as it zooms upward. At the end of this animation, he opens a parachute that can be used to drift to the side, and it can even be acted out of, letting you attack right after, as well as air dodge for a safe landing. The beginning hit with the firemen pops enemies up in such a way that can combo into the second hit, but doesn't always. This move kills if you get it at a high percent in an edge guard, or if you catch your opponent off guard with a stage spike. It's great to use when your shield is being relentlessly pressured. Now, you can use an upward air dodge after this move if you're still short of recovering to the ledge, but take care to remember, if you're still holding up on the joystick from the up B input, you cannot air dodge out of it. Briefly let go of the joystick after the up B, then re-input an upward direction with an air dodge. Down B, aka Oil Panic, is another really strange move. It's an absorption move, meaning anything classified as energy projectiles like fireballs, telekinesis, and especially all those massive energy balls that so many characters have, get sucked into it. You have to fill 3 bars of space in the bucket to get the actual attack part of the move ready, and stronger energy moves can fill more bars than 1. However, the bucket also has the amazing property of being a reflector, which makes it reasonably safe on most projectiles of any sort. And even some things you wouldn't really think to be reflectable, like Villager's Tree, Zelda's Knight, and Mewtwo's Confusion, of all things. Keep in mind that while the direction you're facing likely won't matter in absorption situations, as the absorb hitbox is huge, when reflecting things the projectile has to actually hit the bucket to get reflected. On characters like Villager, the Lynx, and Snake, try to find situations where you absorb the actual explosion from their explosives, rather than just reflecting the solid projectile. When Oil Panic is fully charged, unless it sucked up 3 Fox lasers or some other weak-ass shit, it is a really potent and powerful move. It's fast as hell, with a massive hitbox by the end of the animation, and it typically kills really early. Getting 1 or 2 of those massive energy balls in there is usually enough to get an essentially instant KO, sometimes even stronger than a 9. Because of this, it's also often an instant shield breaker. Don't be a doofus and try reflecting solid projectiles with a full bucket, because it won't reflect and you'll waste your oil. Here are some attacks that you can absorb that you wouldn't maybe expect to be able to. The stars created when Deity's up B or Yoshi's down B hit the ground, the projectile that comes off of Kirby's up B, Duck Hunt's clay pigeon after it's been shot, Snake's F smash and Zero Suit's down smash, and even Inkling's ink are absorbable. Ledge and get up attack also exist. That's it for his moveset, so I guess the rest of this will just be an assortment of random tips and matchup information. The down B bucket is very useful for dealing with people who spam projectiles, like I said, as it covers both physical and energy projectiles. Try to get inside your opponent's head to anticipate when to take out your bucket for random projectiles. And a small note about Young Link's bombs specifically, due to the strange properties of the explosions. A single bomb will fill an entire empty bucket, which will then be exceptionally weak. So in most situations, keep your bucket empty to help against the inevitable boomerang and arrow spam. What I said earlier about the first hit of the forward air bomb not ever comboing into the second hit is usually true, unless you do it from the ledge, like this. Teching is a big deal, because as good as Mr. Game & Watch's recovery is, it's still very possible to get stage spiked while recovering. Before you get the timing down for teching, things like Captain Falcon and Ganondorf's up Bs can make them seem terrifying to edgeguard, but once you do, you can get cool guy stuff, like fucker! You can get cool guy stuff, like this. This brings us to a favorite topic of mine, and that's style. The best feeling in Smash is when you can pull off some crazy combo or wacky maneuver that makes you feel like a total badass, and thankfully, Game & Watch has some decent tools for doing crazy stylish plays. However, this comes with a downside, which is that a few of his moves have certain unpredictable elements. Accept now, before you even try, that some crazy play of yours could be ruined by rolling a bad number at the end of it, or the bomb being weird and inconsistent. I find that for things like this, going into training mode and experimenting with combos and hypothetical shield break setups can be very helpful for getting the muscle memory of some of his weirder combos down. Really go nuts trying out new things, because considering how varied his moveset is, there's probably some crazy style options for this character that I don't even know about yet. Otherwise, my only other advice is what follows. Know as much about as many matchups as possible. Remember your weaknesses, which are being slow and easy to launch. Use Game & Watch's unorthodox combo game and amazing offstage capabilities to your advantage, especially on foes that struggle there. Use his up taunt for celebration, his side taunt for cooperation, and his down taunt for everything else. And, of course, I find that it's usually a lot better to have good luck rather than bad luck. Thank you and good night.